Hi, this is Michael Buffer, and welcome to the BoxHard Podcast.
Hello, everyone. This is Mikey Garcia.
This the monster from the swamps, Regis Rougarou Prograis.
Hey, what's up? This is King Carlos Molina, former IBF world champ.
This is Michael, the Bounty Hunter, 2012 Olympian and your people's champ.
This is Charlie Edwards, flyweight champion of the world.
This is Fast Eddie Chambers, and you're listening to the BoxHard Podcast with my main man, Joey Coastman.
Hello everybody and welcome to episode 285 of the BoxHard Podcast. I'm your host, Joey Coastman. I'm joined as ever by my main man himself. It is, of course, Mr. Fast Eddie Chambers. Eddie, how you doing, my man?
I'm good, my man. I'm over here just relaxing, ready to get this thing on the road, man. I'm all good. How about you?
I'm all good, my friend. Always good when speaking with you, but we have to start with nowhere else but saying it's Eddie's birthday week. Eddie, happy birthday for Monday once again, my man. You still don't look a day older than 26.
Yeah, that's what I'm talking about. Even though I got a few extra grades, it's all good. I'm not mad at them.
Nah. There's no grades in there, my friend. Anyway, like I say, we appreciate anyone on Twitter that wished Eddie a happy birthday, which some did, so that was nice. Tuba TJ as well sent in a birthday message. I'm actually going to read his birthday message as well, because it was nice. He said, "Happy birthday, champ. Love hearing your stories on the BoxHard Podcast." So that's from Tuba TJ. Nice one, Tuba, out there in Hawaii. Okay, getting on to the review part of the show. We're going to start here at the Plaza del Quinto I messed up last week trying to do this. The Plaza del Quinto Centenario in San Juan, Puerto Rico, over here. Amanda Serrano, she's got win number 40 now. She's got a loss and a draw, of course, but a KO for her in round 9. She becomes the first lady to stop Daniela Bermudez, who's now 29-4 with 3 draws. A KO there in round 9 for Serrano. It was for, I believe, a couple of featherweight world titles, if I'm not mistaken. I think Bermudez was moving up in weight. I don't take it for gospel what I'm saying, but yeah, good win for Serrano. She definitely became the first lady to stop Bermudez, and yeah, she's definitely got 40 wins, man. What a brilliant fighter she is. What a role model there. Moving out now to the Copper Box Arena. This one took place on the Friday, 26th of March. Over here, David Adelaide, he's now 5-0 with 5 KOs. A first round KO against a man making his debut, Dave Preston. Preston was down from a body shot. Dennis McCann with a win. He's now 9-0. A points win over 8 against Luis Moreno, who's now 9-2. Moreno was down in the 8th round, but he got up and he lasted the distance there. Dennis McCann, a good win for him. Elsewhere on the card, Sammy Maxwell picked up a points win over 8 against Ben Fields. He's now 15-0. Fields is 10-10 with 2 draws. Fields had a point deducted in the 7th for holding. Brad Foster with a win as well. Unanimous decision over 10 rounds against Alvaro Rodriguez, who's now 10-3 with a draw. Brad Foster now 14-0 with 2 draws there. And he also picked up the vacant IBF International Super Bantamweight title. Elsewhere on the card, Zach Parker with a good win. He was able to TKO Vaughn Alexander, the older brother of Devon. He's the first man to stop Vaughn Alexander. Alexander now 15-5, not as good obviously as Devon, but Zach Parker picks up the WBO International Super Middleweight title there. Alexander down twice in that second round. Zach Parker, friend of the show, now 20-0. And the other fight to mention, Danny Ball 9-0 with a draw going in against the undefeated Sam Gilly 11-0. Friend of the show, Sam Gilly. It was for the WBC International Silver Welterweight title. A unanimous decision in the end. A win there for Danny Ball. Commiserations to Sam Gilly, friend of the show. Like I say, he was on a couple weeks back. I sent Sam a nice message. I think he can come back from that. It wasn't like it was a landslide. It was a very close fight. Could have gone either way. He was a slight favourite, Gilly, but he was just a slight favourite, and he just slightly lost the fight. So, yeah, it was very close. Like I say, could have gone either way. He can bounce back. I'm sure he will. All the best to him. Moving out now to the Europa Point Sports Complex in Gibraltar. Over here, man, we're flying through this quick. Over here, let's start with the undercard. Campbell Hatton making his debut against a Spaniard brought in on late notice, Jesus Ruiz, who was 0-10. This guy, he'd only been stopped once though, so I saw the smart money there and went with a points win for young Campbell Hatton, which of course came in. So that was a little money earner there. 4-round points win there for Campbell Hatton, 1-0 now. Of course, he won every round. He took some decent shots there from the Spaniard, who looked like he was fighting underwater, to be honest with you. A good win on the card as well for Yusuf Kamari, now 12-0 with a draw. A TKO in the 5th round there against the very game Kane Baker. That's a good win, actually. Kane Baker now 14-8. Moving up the card once again, we're going to talk about the... let's go with a man that we're going to be speaking to in the second half of the show, towards the end. Let's go to that one. Erik Pfeifer, 7-0. An undefeated fighter. He was supposed to take on Daniel Dubois a few months ago. The fight fell through. A Danish fight, not Danish, from the Netherlands, a Dutch fighter is what I was trying to say. He's beaten the likes of Tony Yoka in the Olympics and a few other guys. He didn't beat him in the Olympics, he beat him in the amateurs, but Tony Yoka went on to win a gold medal. So quite a good amateur, Erik Pfeifer. He got in there against Nick Webb. It was for the vacant IBO International Heavyweight title. Pfeifer down 3 times in the second round. A huge upset from friend of the show, Nick Webb. The first round, Nick Webb was straight out on the front foot, landing big shots. He was clearly very game for the fight. It was a brilliant round. A couple of shots in the first round actually seemed to bother Pfeifer. And I was just standing up in my living room. Come on, Nick Webb. Round 2, Nick Webb, again, he comes out firing. Down went Pfeifer from a left hook. He got back up. He could not keep Webb off of him. A right hook put him down again. He got back up, then he's down again seconds after that. Ian John Lewis waved it off. Nick Webb, a humongous upset. He fought like a man possessed, and he was coming off a career-long layoff there. He's on a roll. I cannot wait to speak to him later on in the show. Elsewhere on the card, let's now discuss... Fabio Wardley with a KO in the 5th round. He's now 11-0 against America's Eric Molina, who's now 27-7. Really weird kind of fight, to be honest. A typical Molina fight, I guess, because Eric Molina put in a really good performance for the first few rounds, and in that final 5th round, he actually had Fabio Wardley hurt, it looked like, and then he went after him, and then he walked into a shot that didn't really look overly heavy, and he went down, he stayed down, and like I say, it was a typical Molina performance. He hurts his opponent, then he ends up getting stopped at the most unexpected moment of the fight. I wanted to see a good performance from Eric Molina. He gave us that, but then, I don't know, he just walked into one and it didn't even really look like one, and I don't know, man. It's typical stuff from him, unfortunately. Elsewhere on the card, Ted Cheeseman now 17-2 with a draw. A TKO win for him in the 11th round against the previously undefeated 21-0 James Metcalf. Metcalf was down from a left hook to the head prior to the stoppage. It was for the vacant British super welterweight title. Over here, Cheeseman was an underdog, probably for the first time in his career. It was a typical Cheeseman fight, blood and guts. He wore Metcalf down in the end and stopped him with a big left hook. But Metcalf had big moments himself. It was another kind of contender, I think, and I'm saying this almost every week. It was another contender for Fight of the Year. Cheeseman almost had Metcalf out, I think, in the 4th round. Metcalf came back. Like I say, a typical Cheeseman fight. He reminds me of Sam Eggington, where, I think he's going to burn out very quickly. I think Cheeseman, by the time he's 33, hopefully he's long retired by then, because every fight is a war. And he can box. He showed us that, I think, in one of his fights. and it didn't work out for him, even though it was really close, and he just decides to turn back to his old style and try and turn everything into a war. Elsewhere on the card, Chris Kongo, now 12-1. He lost his O in a brilliant fight against Michael McKinson. Someone's O had to go. McKinson still has the perfect record intact, 20-0 now. It was for the WBO Global Welterweight title. Chris Kongo down in the first round. Really enjoyable fight to watch, actually. The first round, like I say, McKinson was boxing beautifully. He was boxing at range, but he was also rushing him really quickly at times with quick combinations. And the story of the round was that McKinson was just able to beat Kongo to the punch. And like I say, down Kongo went with a straight left hand. Only one glove touched down on the canvas, and he popped straight back up. I don't think he was hurt or anything like that, but it could have been a tangle of legs, I think, maybe. But anyway, 10-8 round for McKinson. Round 2, Kongo was on the back foot. McKinson wasn't allowing Kongo to get in a rhythm. McKinson was so accurate with his punches as well. McKinson, for me, grabbed that round. It was a close round, though, I have to say, in the second there. Round 3, a clear McKinson round. His judge of distance and his overall boxing brain for me was far superior to Kongo. It was on show there in the third. Round 4, McKinson for me was picking Kongo off and dodging everything coming back. He looked really good early on in the round. Kongo did have a strong finish to the round though, and I think it looked to me anyway like he hurt McKinson and made the legs stiffen just a bit for McKinson. It was a close one, but for me, I edged it to Kongo. But again, it could have gone either way. Round 5, a round I felt Kongo was cruising to win it, despite not much really happening. But McKinson did land a lovely combination in the dying seconds that might have just snatched a round. A close one, I did edge it to McKinson. Round 6, a Kongo round for me. He landed the better of the shots there. McKinson was chasing, but not really having much success. He did change up his tactics a couple of times in the fight, actually, McKinson. He had a few gears, he had a few game plans, A, B, and C, it looked like. Round 7, a good round. McKinson, he had his chin checked once or twice in that round, and he come through those tests. He took the shots well. Kongo won that round for me, and his jab was starting to make an appearance, which it hadn't really done in previous rounds. Round 8, McKinson was back to his best. An excellent round for him. He landed with almost every left hook he threw. He really outclassed Kongo. Round 9, a McKinson round as well. Close one. It was an entertaining round as well, but for me, I just edged it to McKinson. And then the 10th and final round, McKinson for me got that one, even though it was a close-ish kind of round. But my final card in the end, 97-92 for McKinson, and for me, the rightful champion, the rightful winner of the fight. And like I say, it was a brilliant clash of styles, and I really like McKinson because he's a guy that he said before the fight he's doing this for his young daughter, and there's no need ever to put that pressure on yourself. That for me is putting pressure on yourself, to when you kind of do that, like you see fighters lose like a family member and they say, I'm doing this for my granddad, or I'm doing this for my mom, or whatever it is, and you kind of think, do you need to put that pressure on yourself? If you don't do it, is it going to hurt twice as bad if you lose the fight? So I wasn't sure that was the right thing to do before the fight, but listen, it made it twice as sweet, the victory, and it was brilliant to see. He was really charged up in his post-fight interview, and you could feel it. It was quite emotional in a good way, actually, and I'm just so pleased for him. He's a friend of the show. He said to me in the build-up that Kongo is probably the most dangerous welterweight in the country, and he beat him fair and square for me, and I cannot wait to see what's next for him. He's a guy I've been high on for a long time. I remember sitting ringside watching him beat Sammy McNess, and I became a believer right there and then. Just his boxing brain is just it's so impressive. His judge of distance, his footwork is brilliant, and it was a brilliant breakout win. Hopefully he now gets a few more chances on the big stage where he belongs, and hopefully his fan base grows as well off that. He's a man, waving the flag there in Portsmouth, not known for their boxers. Moving up the card once again, I think that's all the undercard fights, actually. I think we have gone through them. Yes, we have. It's now time for the main event. Alexander Povetkin now 36-3 with a draw. A TKO loss to Dillian Whyte in their rematch. Dillian Whyte now 28-2. It was for the WBC interim world heavyweight title. Povetkin down from a left hook prior to the stoppage. I'm going to fly through my assessment, real brief here. The first round, a good round for Dillian Whyte. I'm not sure if he had Povetkin hurt or it was a balance issue, but he clipped him with a shot and he just looked a bit unsteady on his feet. I don't know what it was. He was struggling to get inside as well. He kept feinting the left hook. He'd kind of feint the roll to the left, and you sitting there kind of sweating watching that. You know, he'd duck down, you know, Eddie, like he did when he popped back up with that uppercut. He was doing that little. That little feint, and yeah, Whyte, every time he did that, he answered the telephone for the block just in case it did come. But yeah, Whyte round there in the first. Round two, a Whyte round as well for me. Not much action. Even without the action, you know, your heart was racing for Dillian Whyte if you're a Dillian Whyte fan, and the pure anticipation and the fact that you just can't blink made it so exciting. A good start though for Dillian Whyte. He wasn't as cautious as I thought he'd be. Round three, a good round again for Dillian Whyte. He landed two beautiful right hands. The first of the two for me was the best. Povetkin walked right into you know, a huge overhand right, but he took it well. In the first fight, I thought Povetkin's punch resistance had gone overnight as well, but he did seem like his chin was back for this fight here. Round four, Dillian Whyte hurt Povetkin with a good couple right hands, and then the knockout itself, Whyte hurt Povetkin with another right hand, and Povetkin fell right into the ropes, which for me, I hate to be controversial, but those ropes definitely held him up. So for me, I thought Victor Loughlin should have jumped in and gave Povetkin a count, but of course he didn't. He allowed the action to continue, and Povetkin, you know, was out on his feet really after that, and it was a left hook that put him down properly. So yeah, he didn't get any time to recover from that shot, which the rules do state if the ropes hold you up and prevent you actually dropping to the floor, it should be called a knockdown. He should have had seconds, but forget about that. I'm a Dillian Whyte fan. Redemption for Dillian Whyte. You know, he needs the recognition now for me. I think that's a serious win. Povetkin's corner as well, the towel came in from them because Povetkin did actually get up and beat the count. The referee stopped it anyway. But yeah, brilliant stuff from Dillian Whyte. He's beaten a man who only world champions seem to beat, and he is, for me, the most deserving man at a heavyweight title shot by far. You know, he's been taking on all these hard fights, you know, while being ranked number one with the WBC. And it couldn't go on forever, you know. I think perhaps he might have burnt himself out a little bit. You know, he had these hard fights, after, you know, one after the other, and we saw how dangerous it can be in the end. You can't keep doing that. He got knocked out. He come back and avenged it with a knockout, which is very impressive, like I say. And yeah, he's had such a crazy run. He's probably got the best resume of any heavyweight in recent years outside of the champions, I think. And yeah, I don't really want to see him keep having these hard, big, risky fights. You know, I want to see him just kind of get a couple easy ones and get his shot, which he deserves. He's deserved it for a long time. And he had to wait over 1,000 days, didn't he? He didn't get his shot, and then he lost by knockout, and it looked like, you know, that was going to be the end, really, and he was never going to get it. Now he's back. I'm not saying he's lucky, because, you know, he won the fight by knockout, like I say. He dominated in the second fight, but I don't think he should take that risk again. I think he's seen what can happen if you keep taking risks. Learn from that. Don't take another risk. Have a couple subpar, you know, opponents, which I think he deserves. Like I say, he's had such a strong resume, and then give him his title shot. But anyway, forget about that. What did you make of the fight, Eddie? And what do you think about, you know, his next few moves? Should he be taking these hard fights against the likes of Parker and all these other guys, Oscar Rivas?
Honestly, you know, he did what honestly we expected him to do the first time out. I still thought, even, you know, in the first fight and even in this fight, Povetkin would be a bigger challenge than what he was. In the first fight, I mean, I felt like in the first fight, Povetkin did some business, even with, you know, I guess the scorecards leaning toward Dillian. But then obviously catching him and stopping him. In this fight, though, we kind of saw if everything's working and Dillian's behind the jab and boxing like he should be boxing and being strong and powerful as he is, that it would be this way. And, you know, I don't want to take I'm not going to throw any shade and say take anything away from Dillian's win. Regardless, he beat a guy that stopped him. And Povetkin being a bit older at this point, you know what I mean? He should have been able to beat him in this fashion, honestly. You know what I'm saying? Not to say that Povetkin's gone or was gone, but he's not quite what he was at one point, and Dillian should be able to handle him in this particular way. As far as going forward for Dillian, I agree with you 100%, Joey. At this point, you know what I mean? It's not padding your record. It's not doing anything like that. It's just putting yourself in position to be prepared for a title shot. You know, the things that, you know, when I was coming up, I looked at, you know, give me whoever's next. You know what I'm saying? First guy up. It doesn't matter who it is. You know what I mean? If that be a champion, that be a champion. And I applaud Dillian for looking at boxing that way. But you got to also start looking at your legacy, and you also want to make sure that you get the opportunity to be a world champion. With me, I had the opportunity once, and it never came around again. And a lot of times it's because you're taking fights that you may not need at the time that you take them. You know what I'm saying? And I'm looking at Dillian's resume, and like you said, the Oscar Rivas fight, you know, the Parker fight. All those fights. I'm not saying the Parker fight was, you know, that's a situation where either one of those guys could be getting a title shot soon. You know what I mean? So I guess you take that fight for that. But when you're ranked number one and you have an opportunity to get that gold, you can't mess around with it. Because if, like, what happened with Povetkin, like you said, it almost was a situation where maybe he doesn't get the opportunity to get the title shot after that. You know what I mean? People are looking at him like, you just got knocked out by an old guy. You know, they start thinking like, oh, you're not this, you're not that. And then it takes your opportunity away. You know what I mean? So he's got to learn from that mistake. You got to understand that this is a business just as much as it is a sport now. And you got to take in stride whatever you're going to get. You got to make sure that if you do fight someone, you make it a situation where at least you know the outcome before it. I hate to say that because I'm not a fan of that necessarily, but you got to protect your position. You got to give yourself that opportunity to get that title.
Yeah, well, like I say, he certainly deserves it, and we couldn't have been more wrong about our prediction for this fight. We both agreed on a white points win. We really don't know bleep about boxing, Eddie. It's been proven a few times now.
Hey, listen. Most of the time, our predictions actually pretty much stand up, but every once in a while, you get one of these things, man. So, you know, maybe we don't know enough about boxing now. I don't want to say we don't know nothing about it. You know what I mean?
But anyway, the bookies keep getting stuff wrong. Like I say, it seems like, I don't know what it is, but in sport there's so many upsets during this pandemic, and I've already mentioned a few, that's happened this week. You know, that I've already mentioned, like Danny Bull. He was a slight underdog against Sam Gilly. He beat him. I mentioned another one being Nick Webb against Erik Pfeifer. That was a big upset. Michael McKinson upset Chris Congo. So what's that, 3 there. And then there was another upset, which I'm going to mention now, which took place in Russia at the RCC Boxing Academy. Tabiso Machunu was actually the underdog, but he was able to beat unanimously over 12 rounds the previously undefeated Evgeny Tishenko, who's now 8-1. It was for the WBC Silver Cruiserweight title, but like I say, Machunu was quite a big underdog, and he's pulled off the win there on points. Moving out now to the Club Saga Heredia in Malaga, Andalusia. Over here, friend of the show, John O'Carroll, former world title challenger, now 19-2 with a draw. He was able to beat his opponent, who was actually undefeated, 9-0, even though I don't think he boxed anyone with a winning record. And I think he actually only had beaten one guy with any wins. I think he boxed pretty much guys that had never won a fight and debutants. Anyway, forget about that. John O'Carroll was able to make the opponent retire on his stool after the 4th round. Romik Alrap, I don't know what the hell his name is. Forget about him. He's 9-1. John O'Carroll marches on, friend of the show. Moving out now to the Copper Box Arena. Over here, another big upset. Willie Hutchinson, the undefeated super middleweight from Scotland. He is now 13-1. He was upset brutally by Lennox Clark, who's now 20-1 with a draw. A TKO in the 5th round there. Hutchinson was cut above the left eye, and he was down from a 2-punch combination. It put him down. He got back up very, very quickly. He got back up, and he was really, unsteady on his legs. His eyes were all over the place. But I still kind of thought that the stoppage was a little bit sudden. I haven't heard anyone else say that, so shoot me down if you think I'm wrong, but I think that was a tiny bit soon. Anyway, I said it on last week's show. I tried so many times to get Willie Hutchinson on the podcast, and, I think he ended up blocking me, to be honest with you. So I don't know if he's going to be on again. I wish him all the best. I wanted him to win. He ended up getting knocked out and stopped, and, it was a big upset again, but I wish him all the best in his comeback trial. He is a friend of the show for life, even if he's been on and won't be on again. That he remains a friend of the show. All the best to him on the comeback trial. Also on the card, Nathan Gorman, now 18-1, a TKO in the second round against Pavel Sauer, former Huey Fury opponent. He's now 13-4. Sauer was down 3 times in the first round and twice in the second, so he was down 5 times in 2 rounds. Finally, it was called off in the second round. Yeah, that's it for the review part. Actually, there's one more card to mention. It takes place in Australia. I'm going to mention it at the very end of the show, because while we're recording this, the result hasn't yet come in, but it's that card that features Tim Tszyu against Dennis Hogan, and of course our guest from last week, Sakio Bika, in his rubber match against Sam Solomon. But anyway, that's it for the review part. The final thing to do just before we wrap up part 1 is to welcome our first guest on this week's podcast. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome the former WBO Heavyweight World Champion. It is, of course, Mr. Joseph Parker. Joseph, welcome back on the show, brother.
Oh, good to be back. Good to be back, finally.
Always great to speak with you, Joe. It truly is. We last spoke back in September of 2019. Yeah, it was a long time ago. I remember at that time as well, we were discussing what was going to be your upcoming fight for October 26th. It was going to be against Chisora. Obviously, the fight didn't take place. You got bit by a spider. I still don't understand how that happened, Joe. Tell me, how did a spider bite you and knock you out?
Listen, I was training in New Zealand, and I've taken my training a lot more seriously as of late. So I was training in New Zealand, and I was in great shape. But before I left New Zealand, I looked down at my leg, my right leg, and there was a little hole on the right side of my leg, on the right leg, and I just didn't think anything of it. I didn't even know what it was, to be honest. So I jumped on a plane and flew to Vegas to start training camp for the Chisora fight. And then 2 weeks in, I'm good. Everything's fine. I'm sparring. Did some sparring with a few guys that were there. Third week, still feeling okay. And then probably like the end of the third week, my body started like deteriorating in like energy. Like the energy just zapped out of me. And then I was sweating at night, and I had the shivers, and I just couldn't sleep at night. And then from there, and then my energy started getting worse and worse. And we went to the doctors in Vegas, and they did a few tests, and the doctor in Vegas said to us it was a spider bite from New Zealand when he sort of had a look at the hole in my leg. Wow. And that's where it all came from. So the doctor in Vegas said it was a spider bite. I had no idea that spiders in New Zealand can do this, but where I live at in New Zealand is sort of like in the country, we've got a lot of trees, and we've got a lot of, it's sort of like a nice farm sort of area. And so I'm not sure. It probably was, but that's all I could take from that was what he said, the doctor.
Wow. Well, yeah, that was one of the most bizarre things that's happened in recent years. Yeah, just getting the timeline right. Obviously, you had the one fight in 2020 against Sean Del Winters. You got him out there in 5. Then, for me, you did enough to win. If there was a WBC lockdown world title, those unbelievable, entertaining videos you did on Twitter, man, you showed that side of your personality that I think a lot of people hadn't seen before. Where did all that come from, Joe, man? It was brilliant. I couldn't wait for the next one every time.
It was. Do you know where it came from? It was just to uplift and spread positive vibes for a very hard time. Not only for, listen, a lot of people find it hard to stay at home. And when we're in lockdown, it affects people mentally. And I just want, myself and my cameraman and my wife and kids and everyone else that joined in with the video, just wanted to spread positive vibes to people that were watching. And I enjoyed it. I had fun. It was cool, and I don't think I'll ever stop. If I get any suggestions on what we can do next, then we'll start planning again. But in the meantime, for now, it's just training. But listen, that was fun, and I enjoyed it, and hopefully something come from it at the end of my boxing career.
Yeah, man, it was wicked to see, and I remember that one. I don't know if it's my favourite part of those videos or my least favourite part, but when I think it was you that threw the toilet paper and it lands in the swimming pool, I was like, how can he do that? I would fish it back out with a net if that was me. but let's talk about your most recent fight briefly, Joe. February 27th in New Zealand, obviously a points win against your former amateur foe, Junior Farr. How do you assess that performance there, Joe?
It's good to get the win. That's what we always want to get. To get the bigger fights that are out there. But the performance wise, it wasn't at all close to what I wanted to show in the ring, or it wasn't what I expected for myself. So it wasn't. If you see the end of the fight, I don't know if you've seen it. I wasn't too happy with how I won. And I give credit to Junior and his team for coming in. He was able to, diffuse a lot of the, attacks that I put in place. And I guess I still have a lot to work on and a lot to improve from that performance. So, it wasn't the best, and I wasn't too happy, but it's always good to get the win.
And again, I've seen like mixed opinions online about the performance. Some people say the scorecards were too wide. Whatever. I think that really, coming from the UK or the US or whatever, I don't think people really know how good Junior Farr is. I'm not making an excuse, but I think it was a big fight in New Zealand, and I don't think he's really had that kind of breakout fight. I think this was it, and people weren't expecting much from him, whereas I think he's better than people thought he was. But forget about that. It's in the past now. After the fight, the news broke that you decided to split with long-term trainer Kevin Barry. Was that a difficult decision for you, Joe?
Probably one of the most difficult decisions I've ever had to make in life, really, because I've been with Kevin for about 8 years. We had a great setup in Vegas, and we have great training routine, and he's more like it goes beyond boxer and trainer. He's sort of like a father figure, and he's done a lot for me and my family, and I always hold him as a close friend of mine. So it was very hard, having that discussion of, hey coach, I want to try something else. But to be honest, credit to Kevin, he was very supportive and very understanding, and we finished off in good terms. So we, as soon as I saw him and we had the discussion, he left back to Vegas, and it was time for me to sit down and with our team and see who can we appoint as a new trainer.
And, I understand, as you say, you parted ways amicably. That's a good thing. Is it fair to say, Joe, that maybe things were getting a tiny bit stale?
Yeah, as a fighter, things, as much as we try and change it up, and as much as we try and add this and add that, it's always, it always reverts back to, just being in the same place and sort of doing the same things. And I felt like it was getting a little bit stale. And that's no one's fault, really. It's because we've just been doing it for a long time.
Yeah. And I want to ask you this. It's a bit of a difficult question, I think, here. But did the Junior Farr fight kind of make the decision for you, or did you have your mind made up before that about changing trainers?
I didn't have my mind made up before that. It was that fight that sort of, just the fight, and then just I didn't have the excitement of flying back to Vegas and training, or I didn't have, or just doing the same thing. I wasn't excited, and it didn't sort of motivate me, for any fights that I had after the Junior Farr fight. But that fight did help as well.
Yeah, no, I understand that. And yeah, I'll be honest with you, Joe, you're a friend of mine, but I think the last few performances, and I'm not going to sugarcoat, you're more than welcome to tell me if you think I'm being harsh, but if we go over your last 5 fights really quickly here, Dillian Whyte, brilliant performance. I thought you actually won that fight. A lot of people don't agree with me, but I don't really care. You almost had him out in the final round. It was close, but I just shaded it to you. Alexander Flores, you smashed him to pieces. Alex Leopai, you got in there, you got him out in the end, but I thought you made quite hard work of it. Shaundell Winters, again, I think you made it harder than it had to be, but you did get him out of there brutally. And then obviously Junior Farr. It's
not up to scratch. It's not up to scratch, the performances.
Yeah, it hasn't been the smoothest. You've looked a tiny bit flat. I don't know if it's overtraining. I don't know if it's lacking the motivation, which is understandable considering, the big pay-per-view events you've been involved in. Is that fair to say, Joe?
Very fair to say. And I listen, I'm with you on that. It hasn't been the best performances, and I wasn't. It's always like it's great to get the win, and some of those have been knockouts, but it could have been done in a better way. It could have been done earlier. I could have looked better. I could have looked more sharper. I could have done this better. You know what I mean? So I understand exactly where you're coming from, and I feel the same.
No, good stuff. And pretty much straight after the fight, rumours sparked about that possible Chisora fight being reignited. I knew straight away this is a fight that would motivate you. I think it's a brilliant style fight for you. It's now been made, obviously. Eddie Hearn came up with a date, May the 1st. Initially, I thought it was going to be a bit soon, considering you'd gone 12 and you'd had the trainer split and all that. But is it still enough time to be 100% an ideal for you?
It's enough time. I guess it's... You know, as a fighter, you want to train and you want to keep busy. And I felt in sort of previous years when I was a busy fighter, I had good momentum. And also because when you're in the ring, often you're learning your craft, you're getting more experience, you know, and I mean, when you're away from the ring for a long time, it's like you get that ring rust. And I didn't really think that ring rust existed, but it does, you know, when you're out of the ring for so long.
Yeah, and obviously you're now speaking to me from Ireland. You're out there training with Andy Lee. The rumour online was that apparently Tyson Fury made the suggestion that you should go with Andy Lee. I apologise because I haven't seen anything, any interviews that you've done in the recent days, so I don't know if that's 100% true or not. And you've answered this question a million times before, but is that what happened?
Yeah, after I had the discussion with Kevin and we parted ways, he went back to Vegas. I was thinking to myself, who should I get advice from? And there's no one better than Tyson Fury. So I called up Tyson, and he always takes my calls, always makes time for me, treats me like a brother. I said, hey, Tyson, this has just happened. What do you think I should do next? Who do you think I should train with? And he put Andy Lee right up there with the best trainers he's ever trained with. And from there, he gave Andy Lee a call to see if he was available to train me. Andy said yes. Then I got on about 3 or 4 calls with Andy and my manager David Higgins, and from there, like 5 or 6 days later, I'm on an airplane flying to Ireland to meet him for the first time, to sort of get to work together on the pads and sort of guide me through training, and then we had the fight locked in.
Great, man. That's good, and I wish you the best with Andy Lee. I think that's a really interesting link up there. Hope it works out. I hope you're happy. That's the main thing. If you've got a prediction for May the 1st, Joe, how do you see the fight playing out?
Yeah, listen, I'm not going to say knockout because every time I try to look for a knockout, it doesn't happen. I think with the, I always back myself. Chisora backs himself as well. But with the training that I'm doing, with the things that I'm picking up, and just a few things that Andy's teaching me, I feel that's going to be a good performance. You know, it's just if I go out there and enjoy myself and work on the things and show what the things that we've been working on, it's going to be a good display. So I just got to, there's going to be a lot of pressure from Chisora coming in and chasing me and trying to get me on the ropes, this and that. But I'm just going to, do my thing, stay calm and let it happen.
And I want to get your take on 2 other heavyweight fights that's happening just before we wrap it up, Joe. I want to get your take on a big one and one that's slightly below that level. Which one do you want first?
We'll get the one that's sort of slightly, and then we'll get the big one after.
Okay. It's looking like it's going to be taking place for the right to become mandatory for the IBF. Hunter Hrgović. Ooh.
Wow. Oh, that's actually a very good fight. I mean, Hrgović is quite still new in the heavyweight scene. How many fights he had? About 10 fights? Is he? Something like that. So, and then Hunter, obviously, he's a very good mover. He's been in the ring with some great fighters. I don't know, just a bit. Who do you have?
Well, Hunter's like one of my closest friends in the world, so I'm with Hunter.
Yeah, I fought Hrgović and we get along well, and I mean we text and that. But I also message Hunter as well, and I respect him as a fighter, and I feel like he's got, he's one of those fighters that will fight anyone. Yeah. A lot of people avoid different fights and try and pick this fight or that fight, but he's like, give me anyone.
Yeah, you're right there, and it should be a good one. Hopefully, the best man wins, and the big one. I think you know which one it is. Joshua, a man that you boxed, and Fury, a man that sounds like somewhat of a mentor and a close friend now.
Yeah, listen. I think that's the fight that everyone is waiting to happen. I mean, they've said that contracts have been signed, and they're just looking for a venue now. But that fight has to happen. And there's a 2-fight deal signed for both fighters. You know, whoever wins, there's another fight. There's a rematch clause. But I back Fury for this fight. I've backed him from the beginning, and I'll back him now. And I feel like he'll be the one to come out on top. I know there's nothing, no disrespect to Anthony Joshua or his team or anything they've done, but I just feel that Fury is I feel like he's the one. He's going to come out on top and take care of business.
Yeah, you and me both. And just finally, Joe, before we wrap it up, if you've got a closing message to the listeners, it's always great having you on. It's honestly a pleasure having you on. If you've got any closing words to the listeners before we let you go, take it away, my friend.
All the listeners, thank you guys for listening to the BoxHard Podcast, and thank you guys for your support. And as a fighter, I really love being in Ireland and training, and I'm very happy and excited for my fight in May 1. And I'm going to go out there and do my thing and have fun and take care of business. And I back myself to get a win. I know I have a tough challenge in front of me, but I'll do my best to get the victory. So keep supporting, keep backing us, and see you May 1.
And more importantly, tune in May the 1st. Okay, listen, Joseph, it's always great speaking with you, my friend. Thanks for your time. Congrats on the win the other week. I hope we get to see you become victorious as well on May the 1st, and we'll speak sometime after.
Thank you, bro. Speak soon.
Okay, now it's time for part 2 on this week's show. This part, of course, the news part of the show. We're going to start here with a big fight that's been announced for April 30th. We've got over here Sonny Edwards going for the IBF World Flyweight title against the long-reigning champion, Muradjan Akhmadaliev. I'm not sure if that's how it's really pronounced, but yeah, Sonny Edwards, the brother of Charlie, he's been on the show again. He's a guy that's been on before. I wish him all the best. He is one of my favourite fighters to watch. Really good footwork and stuff like that. But, Akhmadaliev's up there in age. He's got to be probably about 36. There's a big age difference between the two, but should be a really, really good fight. I think Sonny Edwards will be the underdog again there. April the 30th as well, we've got Michael Conlan in a fight. He takes on Iron Up Baluta. I think that's the guy who pulled off an upset over someone. Bear with, because I don't want to give out wrong information. Iron Up Baluta, I'm sure he was able to upset someone. He was able to upset TJ Doheny. Yeah, then he knocked out David Oliver Joyce. So he's on a bit of a run. They're his last 2 fights. So Michael Conlan, man oh man, he's taken out these Irish guys. So can he get a result against Conlan? Not quite sure about that one. That might be a step too far. All the best to Conlan in that one. That is it for the news. Yeah, that's all we've got at the minute. If anything else develops from now to the end of the show, I will discuss it at the very end. Moving on to the preview part of the show, we're going to start here in Russia tomorrow, Friday the 2nd of April. We get to see over here Alexei Popin. He's the guy that's got 1 loss on points to Ilunga Makabu. It was a really good fight, and I actually like Popin. He's 12-1. He takes on a guy called Vaclav Pejar, who's 15-10. Not sure what's going on over there. Moving out now to the Caesars Palace in Dubai. Over here, on the undercard, let's start with that. We've got Zankosh Turarov. He's 24-0. Undefeated fighter. It's for the WBO Intercontinental Super Lightweight title. He takes on Tyrone McKenna, who of course is 21-2 with a draw. That's a tough fight there for Tyrone McKenna. He's definitely up against it there. He's boxing this guy Turarov. I was trying to look at his amateur background, and I couldn't really see much on him from what I could see. But, he hasn't really boxed any fantastic fighters as a pro, even though he's managed to get to 24-0 with 17 KOs. He's known as Da Kazakh Kid. He's actually a man residing in Florida. But anyway, hopefully Tyrone McKenna can spring the upset, but I think it certainly would be an upset. Also on the card, Donny Nietes, who these days is 42-1 with 5 draws. He's on the card as well. I'm not even sure how many times he's been a world champion. I think he's, about a 4-weight world champion, I think now. He fights for the vacant WBO International Super Flyweight title against Pablo Carrillo, who's 25-7 with a draw, the Colombian fighter. That's good to see Donny Nietes back out on the kind of big stage. You know, we get to watch him over here. Yeah, that should be interesting. And elsewhere on the card, the main event, let's talk about it now. A man that, for me, is one of the nicest guys in boxing, and I'm sure you will agree, Eddie, even though you are the number one. This guy's got to be close second, Mr. Jamel Herring, 22-2, defending his WBO World Super Featherweight title against Carl Frampton. Eddie, I think we say.
I said, oh wow, that's a good fight.
Yeah, Carl Frampton, 28-2. I know you know these guys, you know, decently well to give a take on it. So, what's your views, big man?
Man, it's definitely an interesting fight. I mean, obviously I have somewhat of a relationship with Jamel Herring, and at this point, man, it's like a toss-up. I think you know, Carl Frampton has a heck of a resume. You know, great fighter, you know, world champion, you know, former champion, all. And obviously Jamel, you know, up and coming still. I mean, even though, you know, obviously he has, you know, established himself as a top fighter in the division, a top fighter in the world. It's just interesting. I just need to see the fight. I just need to see it. And I'm really not sure. You know what I mean? Obviously I want to see Jamel win. I want to see him do really well, box well. You know, I mean, I actually watched Jamel fight in person a few times, and like I said, one of the nicest guys ever. But also awesome fighter, really you know, dedicated to his craft, and just gonna keep getting better all the time. So, you know what I mean. This is a very, very tough task, though. You know, fighting with Frampton. This is not going to be an easy situation. And if he's not on his game the night of, which you know, not every single time you get out there, you're going to be the best of you, you know, the best that you can be, you know. Sometimes you have issues. It'll be if that happens, he's not going to obviously be, he may not be champ anymore. So, you know, I'm just hoping that he's ready on the night. I'm hoping that he's able to take care of business in that fight. It's a very interesting fight. I'm looking forward to watching it myself.
Yeah, in the States, it's on ESPN Plus. In the UK, you can watch it on IFL TV's YouTube channel, which is pretty good. Yeah, Carl Frampton, you know, you've got to kind of remember, it sounds like, I kind of sound like a broken record now, you know. He's a guy that really was a super bantam. Obviously, he moved up to featherweight, and now he's up at super feather. Jamel Herring, really and truly, is a lightweight coming down, and he's absolutely huge. When you see the two stood next to each other, the size difference is absolutely crazy. But yeah, Jamel Herring, you know, his last fight, he didn't look the best, even though he won the fight. His opponent got disqualified. I think he won probably every round on the cards, but he had a few rough and tumble moments there. And, you know, he obviously had COVID once or twice. Carl Frampton, though, he's got his own problems. He has had the fight put off by about 4 weeks due to hand troubles, which, you know, have been a story of his career, unfortunately. So, should be a good one. I am rocking with Jamel Herring. I have to. He's a friend of the show. I'd like to try and get Carl Frampton on the show, perhaps after the fight. I've reached out. I'm going to try and get that to happen, but we shall see. But I just want to say to the listeners, I've been working my absolute nuts off trying to get different people on. I'm trying to get some guys on that you certainly wouldn't expect. So yeah, I'm going to leave that there, and I'm gonna really try my best to get some wild cards on the show. And when I say wild cards, I mean world champion wild cards. We shall see. But yeah, all the best to Jamel. Should be a great fight. You know, it's been a long time coming. I think the fight was supposed to happen before as well, and I think it got put off maybe once or twice. So really pleased. Jamel's wanted to fight for a long time as well, so he's finally getting it. Moving out now to Uzbekistan. Over here, Muradjan Akhmadaliev, he is 8-0. He's defending his WBA and IBF World Super Bantamweight titles against Ryosuke Iwasa, who's now 27-3. Iwasa, you know, I think he had the interim belt, the IBF interim belt, I believe. I think he picked that up. That's pretty much why the fight's happening from the IBF. But yeah, he's the guy that lost to TJ Doheny. So it's been a bit of a weird one. He lost to TJ Doheny. Doheny fought Danny Roman. Danny Roman fought Muradjan Akhmadaliev and lost to him, and now it's gone round and round, and now Iwasa gets a shot again. But he's a good fighter, like I say. Been a world champion, and I hope it's a good fight. It should be quite good, but I really like the look of Akhmadaliev, man. He is something special, it certainly seems. Is there a couple fights to mention on the undercard? I think there are. Shakram Giasov, 10-0. This one's for the WBA International Super Lightweight title. He takes on Patricio Lopez Marino, who's 28-4. Marino's been in with like Denis Berenchik. He's been in with a couple of other guys. Shouldn't really have too much to give problems for Giasov. Also on the card as well, Israel Madrimov, 6-0, takes on Imani Colombo, who's 14-0 with 14 KOs from the Democratic Republic of Congo, based in South Africa. Hasn't really, I mean, to be honest, he's boxed some guys I've heard of as well on his record. But yeah, I like seeing guys who have got the 100% KO ratio, and it's going to be interesting to see how Israel Madrimov, I should say, gets on with him, because he has 5 big KOs from 6 wins, and like I say, a really, really, really good amateur, with tons and tons of fights as an amateur. Anyway, that is it though for the preview part of the show. We did the news, we did the review, we had our first guest. It's now time to welcome our second and final guest on this week's podcast. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome the hard-hitting heavyweight wildcard. It is, of course, Mr. Nick Webb. Nick, welcome to the show, my man. It's great to have you back on.
Thank you, man. Good to be here.
And Nick, we haven't spoke for quite a while, and obviously, like I say, it was the listeners that wanted you on the podcast. How are you, man? First and foremost.
I'm doing very good, mate. Still buzzing from the weekend.
So you should be. And like I say, we ain't spoke since December 2019. It was just after you won the Ultimate Boxer tournament, and until the other night, you were inactive for 15 months coming off that. What did you get up to, Nick, in that time? Because obviously it was the longest period of inactivity for you.
Yeah, well, so after the wins, I sort of thought, right, I'm back, sort of thing, from the Ultimate Boxer, and was just trying to get a good deal to fight again, and then obviously COVID hit, and didn't know what if the world was going to end or if zombies were going to come out of nowhere. So we sort of just thought, right, just enjoy this time off. So I had about 2 weeks of just eating shit and drinking, and then just thought, oh, this can't keep doing this, and then just slowly got back into training, but there was nothing really going on. Like, the only thing we got offered was Fabio with 2 weeks notice, and obviously we wasn't ready, weren't in no camp or nothing, so I wasn't going to take a 2-week notice job. Obviously I've learnt from my past. So yeah, and then just had a pretty bad time in lockdown, lost a few people, not because of COVID, just but because of other stuff, and then obviously not seeing family and friends and things like that. So yeah, it wasn't a good time, but from the sort of beginning of January, just fired back up and found a new lease of training hard, and was straight in camp from 2nd of January, and then got that call to fight Pfeifer, was ready to go.
Wow, well, like I say, it seems like it's been quite a difficult 2020 for you, like it's been for a lot of people. Yeah. The best thing is, 15 months ago, you boxed 3 men in one night. You win the Ultimate Boxer tournament, but on that night, you were coming off a year out the ring as well. Now you've just come off a year and 3 months out the ring. You've pulled off your biggest win against this previously undefeated Erik Pfeifer. It's almost as if the more inactive you are, the better you perform, which sounds mad, Nick. But tell me about this fight in Gibraltar, man. I've got to say, it was just a pleasure to watch. I couldn't believe what I was seeing, to be honest.
Nice, man. Well, I'll start with, obviously, before the Ultimate Boxer, obviously I was coming off, knockout defeats, and it was a hard time. I had to fight a lot of demons in my head, and a lot of people close to me telling me that I should give up, and that that I should be looking to do something else. But I sort of stayed true to the dream, kept training hard, kept believing in myself, and my team believed in me. Obviously, we won that, and then then we got off the Gibraltar fight, and what a night that was buzzing. Getting that win just sort of electrified everything. But nah, man, I need to be active. I don't need it in activity, but it did give me a lot of time out to sort of work on a lot of things that I needed to work on.
And like I said, I've got to be honest, when I saw you were coming off 15 months out and this guy was undefeated, a good amateur with wins over the Olympic gold medalist Tony Yoka, I thought to myself, your chances are probably slim. That's me being honest, and that's why I'm so happy for you, because you've had so many ups and downs like you touched on, and this surely has to be the biggest of ups, especially when it was such a big upset on paper. And like I said to you, Nick, who needs a gold medal when you got a gold robe, my friend?
That's right, mate. That's right. Like you said, it was probably the best night in boxing I ever had.
Wicked,
being, in Gibraltar and then doing an upset like that. It was never known to me. Sort of the closer I got to the fight, the more I sort of realised that I'm the big underdog here. In our training, I was thinking, of course, they're stupid to take this fight with me, sort of thing. We always believed that I'm going to go through him, and that's what we did on the night.
Yeah, and you proved all the doubters wrong. It was amazing. He didn't even land a glove. I mean, it was just brilliant. You were so aggressive. It worked so well, and he just didn't know what to do. You're in the best form of your life. 16 months ago, you'd never fought an undefeated fighter. You're now coming off 3 wins in a row against undefeated fighters. What's the next stop for the Nick Webb Express train?
Not sure. I need to sit down with my team, speak to my manager Scott, and literally go from there. Obviously, we're still fresh at a win, so I think he's just thinking of he's plotting the next moves, and then we're going to have a meeting and go from there.
And how soon, ideally, do you want to be out again, Nick? And like I said earlier, I think the best thing to say is to say like 2022 or 2023, the way your career is going, coming off these long layoffs.
Yeah, mate. Nah, I need to be active. That I'll be an even better fighter, more activity. Like I said, I did get to work on some flaws that we found, that I needed to do. But I'm ready now, and being active is going to make me even better fighter. So hopefully within the next 2 months, 2-3 months, I'll be out again.
And is there any names that you want? I know you said that you was offered the Fabio Wardley fight, and it was short notice. Obviously, it was the right thing to not take it, but that's a fight I wouldn't mind seeing. I've seen a few other people. I think Dave Coldwell tweeted it on the other night, and I just thought, watching Wardley against Molina, he could not afford to let you land on him the way he let Molina land on him the other night. And, it's another undefeated record for this growing collection. But forget about me. What kind of names do you want, Nick, if there is anyone?
I'm open to all offers, and I would fight, I'll fight anyone. It's up to my management team to point me in the right direction. Okay. And I want to get your take on a couple of other heavyweight fights just before we wrap it up, Nick. May the 1st, Chisora Parker. Who you got in that one, Nick? I like both as fighters. Chisora, he's the English man, and I've sparred with him a few times, and I'm going to back my English man and go with Chisora.
Okay. And if it happens, we all want to see it. The mega fight for all the belts at heavyweight. Joshua Fury, Nick. Who you got?
Well, it's a tough one, isn't it? I can't be biased either, can I now?
Say what you like, my friend.
But I'm just going to go on last performances, and I believe Tyson Fury's last performance was out of this world, so I'm going to go with that, with Tyson Fury.
Okie dokie. And just finally, Nick, if you've got any closing words, perhaps to the listeners, perhaps to sponsors you want to thank. I think we did that before. You had quite a few sponsors. That's completely fine. The floor is yours. Give you the microphone. Say whatever you like before we wrap it up, my man.
Yeah, I'd just like to thank everyone that's followed me. Thanks to my team, my missus, my family, just for pushing me. Just keep watching me, and I'll keep proving all your doubters wrong.
Absolutely, and like I say, Nick, you're back where you deserve to be, on the undercard of big shows, and if you carry on this form, I'm sure you'll be headlining one of these big shows soon. It's always great to speak with you, my man. God bless you, and we'll catch up again soon. Man.
Wicked, mate. Lovely.
Okay, and this wraps up episode 285 of the BoxHard Podcast. I've been your host, Joey Coastman. Eddie Chambers has been with me for the duration of the show. A massive thank you to our two guests on this week's podcast, the former WBO Heavyweight World Champion Joseph Parker and the hard-hitting heavyweight who's on a run of his own, Mr. Nick Webb. The biggest thanks of all goes out to you, the listeners. Elsewhere, I've come up with an idea that I'm thinking of starting a boxing prediction league. What will happen is that each person in the league will give their prediction for an upcoming fight. Let's say, for example, it's Herring against Frampton. You've got to pick the winner and the method of victory, and each correct prediction will earn you a point. It's going to be £1 to enter, and at the end of the season, or maybe like the first to 10, I don't know, we'll win the pot of money. Winner takes all. So we need at least 10 people joined up to start this off. Drop me a message on Twitter or Instagram to get involved at BoxHard Podcast. Hopefully in the future, if this little prediction league thing takes off, we can give away prizes instead of small amounts of money. Just an idea. Anyway, there has been one or two pieces of news break whilst we've been recording the show. Devin Haney has announced he'll be defending his WBC world title against Jorge Linares on May 29th in Las Vegas. I don't mind that fight, to be honest with you. I'm kind of looking forward to that one. And of course, the results are in now for the Tim Tszyu fight. He was able to knock out in 5 rounds Dennis Hogan, who had 3 losses, 2 on points to Jack Corkai and Jaime Munguia, and a knockout loss in round 7 to Jamal Charlo up at middleweight, where he had to move up. So on my measuring stick, that looks like a great win for what looks to be a promising prospect in Tim Tszyu. Not a guy who's just, eating off of his father's name kind of thing. He looks to be really good. And on the undercard, of course, our man Saki Obika managed to beat Sam Solomon by unanimous decision over 8 rounds in their rubber match, so I'm pleased for him also. But that's about everything from myself. Enjoy your weekends, people. Stay safe, and we shall see you all again next week.